You are listening to The Off Switch. How to run your business so it doesn't run you. Written by Sarah Greener and narrated by Sarah Greener too. Chapter 1. Introduction. I see so many business owners doing what I used to do, sacrificing everything important to them, working far too many hours and far more than they need to, telling themselves stories, the same stories I used to say to myself about how working harder and harder will get me the results. And if I just do the hard yards now, I'll have more time for the important things later, believing if I sacrifice in the short term, I will win in the long term. I thought all this hard work would benefit my family in the long run, my loved ones and my team. Like you, I was doing it for the freedom that I would receive someday in the future. But in reality, we've turned our business into a ball and chain. Like me, you probably created your business because you wanted the freedom that came from running something yourself. You had a vision of doing it your way, working when you wanted, earning money on your terms, and having more time for your loved ones and yourself. But in reality, it often doesn't happen. That elusive someday never shows up. It used to be you, and this is why I had to write this book. It's also why I created the business I have now, to prevent others from burning out like I once did. I was 15 years old when I stopped wanting to be a farmer and knew I wanted to run my own business. My parents were already in business, so I left school a year early and went straight into university to study business. Buying into the story that hard work is the path to success, I thought that the harder I worked, the more successful I was and would be. So just being a full-time university student wasn't enough for me. As I studied full-time, I also worked full-time at an accounting firm. Are you seeing a pattern yet? Yep, me too. I thought it was giving me the skills and tools I would use later on down the track, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. As my degree finished, I got my first taste of running a business. Mum and Dad signed a joint venture with McDonald's. Yes, the Golden Arches one. It was a big deal back then too, while continuing to run their other business. Recognising the need for more resources, Mum and Dad contacted me and I took over the meat business, McMaster and Daughters. Selling meat to hotels and restaurants was a two-person band. So on top of being the general manager, I was also the apprentice butcher, delivery truck driver, accountant, marketer, and salesperson, all rolled up into one. On that journey, I learned a lot about what not to do and what to do well, with a privileged insight into what the corporate world looked like as my parents' adventure under the Golden Arches with no qualifications continued. The combination of my accounting years and my family's experience with McDonald's made it pretty clear I wasn't headed to a corporate career. It didn't excite me. There wasn't enough freedom or flexibility in what you could do. Think cruising in a cruise ship versus that fast, nimble trailer boat. I loved the ability to see an opportunity and turn right towards it rather than the long, slow process that comes with a bigger organisation. As with many young New Zealanders, I headed off on my big overseas experience, jumping on a plane to land in Thailand the evening after the Boxing Day tsunami hit. That's another story for another day. Focused on meeting up with travelling friends and rock climbing, I had no intention of staying for a long time. And as with all the best intentions, the universe intervened, and instead I fell in love. Not once, but 3 times. I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with scuba diving. I fell in love with Johnny. Johnny was running a kayaking business at the time, and I launched straight into helping with that venture. I'm pretty sure he called it interfering. We ran that business successfully in Thailand for a few years before we came back to New Zealand for a wedding. During that visit, we were encouraged to head back north and experience a tourism product that I'd experienced with my dad on a trip before I left for Thailand. With our life in Thailand firmly in our minds, we explored and experienced everything this business had to offer. We took notes and planned what parts we would add to our business in Thailand. And yet again, the universe had another plan. One, as a New Zealander, I was very keen on. A way to come home, be with Johnny and live on the water. We sat having a drink at the onboard bar when the skipper and boat owner turned to us and said he was considering selling it. With no thought and zero conversation with my then boyfriend, I said, "We'll buy it." A complete U-turn from the original plan for growing the kayaking business, building a home and setting permanently in Thailand. 6 months later, we owned the boat in the Bay of Islands. Hindsight is a beautiful thing. 2020, some would say. We were blissfully unaware throughout the handover process in December 2007 that a storm now called the global financial crisis was developing both overseas and here in New Zealand. That first season was hard work, but we knew no different. The GFC affected us, it impacted everyone in some way, and we were in the business of tourism, not an industry favoured by poor economic conditions. We'd borrowed all of the money to buy the business at 13.5% interest. And yet, we paid off $250,000 in 6 months as the worst global financial crisis in a decade happened around us. I've always been told that hard work equals success, and so we did just that. We worked hard. We lived on the boat, we worked on the boat, we socialized on the boat. We truly lived and breathed our business for that entire time. We ignored all the people that told us we were going to go bankrupt, and we not only survived, we thrived. They were excellent results, and so we carried on from there. We still have that business today. Nearly 13 years on, we went from there to buy another one, taking part in another couple with family, and of course, my business I have today. I love the energy that comes from business, the journey, the challenge, the people it attracts, and the learning. For us, it became an addiction. It spread from the boat to a booking office, and from there, merged into an e-commerce business selling travel online. Giving back was a huge part of what we did. Even today, one of the freedoms we love about being in business is the ability to give back. We gave far more than any normal job would ever have allowed, because there is not a boss in the world that would allow you to do what we did. Hundreds of hours on community projects, hundreds of interruptions to drop everything and head out to help our locals or visitors, and the gift of knowing you've made a difference to your community. Our businesses continued to grow, and we ended up with 4 businesses with a combined team of 90 people. I was working 60 to 100 hours per week. I had a young baby and my husband, Johnny. I was giving 100 hours a month to a community project and training to compete in my first Muay Thai match. From the outside, it looked so successful. Gorgeous baby, multiple businesses, happy marriage, leader in the community, great social life, challenging fitness events. Truth was, I was barely surviving. We carried on as if this was normal, rising at 5 a.m. to start my day and sliding into bed next to my sleeping husband in the early hours of the morning. It was a real life experience of ships passing in the night. Getting dinner with our daughter once a week, but mostly grabbing a quick takeaway to get through. I existed on caffeine during the day and went to bed after too many glasses of wine to help me sleep. I gained and lost weight as I alternated between overdoing the food and overdoing the exercise. I lived by the mantra, if you need something done, ask a busy person. And I was the busiest person I knew. And every time someone asked, I said yes. Worse than my addiction to business was my addiction to yes. I was hooked on sacrificing myself for all the things I should do. I'd forgotten I had the ability to choose. And I would say over and over again, but I have to. I missed so much. I was so busy being busy. I'd grown up being empowered by my parents. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you choose. Turns out, I didn't realize there was a second step to being empowered. It's that you can't do everything at once. Not if you want to do anything well. Not if you want to survive it. You have to make choices. You have to say no. And so I did. I didn't want to give up. I loved business. I got results, and I was so proud of everything we'd achieved. I still am proud of that journey. But it wasn't sustainable. This was the start of the next chapter of learning how to say no, of designing a business that served our lives rather than being my life. We began to extract ourselves, selling off our businesses, resigning from community roles, and prioritizing the essentials. And now we have our coaching business and our tourism business, and life is great. I work 30, maybe 40 hours a week. We make time for what matters and what's important. We know who we are, where we're going, and how to execute it. When you're completely focused on your business, you actually end up tuning out to what's going on around you. I was awful at listening to myself, to others, and to the universe. Instead of being with my newborn baby, I sat running payroll in the hospital bed. Fast forward 5 years, and that newborn baby had become wise beyond her years. And because I didn't listen to that first gentle message to slow down, the universe sent me another one. This one I couldn't miss. I couldn't ignore. It came on Christmas Day 3 years ago. One of the businesses we were involved in was 2 large restaurants, and both were open Christmas Day, lunch and dinner service for over 800 people across the whole day. In the days leading up to Christmas, everything was running beautifully. The team was great, the food was prepared, and the venue stunning. I was going to be there and work alongside my team. Another one of those rules I had. I don't ask my team to do anything I'm not willing to do, and that included working Christmas Day, even when I didn't pay myself. I had Christmas morning with my family, and at around 11 a.m. I went to work with the plan of being back home with the family for 6 p.m. At midday, 5 of the 25 people that made up our front of house team didn't show up for work. How were we going to serve 800 people now? I called my husband. He came to work. He spent Christmas Day washing dishes from early afternoon while Scarlett stayed home with a babysitter. At around 7:30 p.m, we had a phone call saying our daughter wouldn't go to bed, which has never happened. She was always stuck to the routine and goes to bed on time. My husband took the call and Scarlett said, "It's Christmas Day. Are you still at work? The next time you and Mama have to work on Christmas Day, can you tell me first so I know? I just want you to read me a story." A simple request. It was like a knife to our hearts. These are wise words from a child who at 5 already knew that Christmas was a day for family and not for sacrifice. And while Johnny went home, I stayed. I stayed until 1 a.m, sacrificing my daughter's bedtime story to support my team, to ensure our customers had a great Christmas Day, and sacrificing those special moments with my girl I would never get back. When I got home in the dark, early hours of the morning, I whispered in my sleeping daughter's ear, "I promise we will never, ever do that again." From that day forward, we made decisive decisions to eliminate everything and anything that wasn't most important to us. By the end of the year, we were down to the things that we really loved, including the businesses that were designed around what we wanted for our lives. Today, Scarlett still talks about that Christmas Day, that business. She will never let us forget. She was only 5, and no 5-year-old should spend Christmas like that. They say our children are the greatest teachers we can have, and being open to the lessons are so important. Hi, Sarah here. Just wanted to say, stoked that you are learning this knowledge to ensure that you get to blend your business and your life together in the way that you want. And learning stuff is good. Using stuff is better. If you want to start using the knowledge that you got today as quickly as possible, I want to give you a little bit of hands-on help. Head on down into the show notes. There's a link there for my calendar. You can get some one-on-one time with me so we can work on your business and your life and get it working just the way you want it now. I look forward to seeing you on that call and giving you the help to implement what you've heard here today into your business as simply as possible. Until then, stay Moxie.